Yo people, welcome to another meal prep video with me. My name's Joe. How you doing? What's your name? Let's be friends. Today I'm going to do meal prep for people who can't cook, but you know, if we're going to be honest with each other, there's no such thing as people who can't cook, there's just people who can't be bothered cooking. So, you know, I'm not calling you lazy, I'm just, you know, if the shoe fits. This video is sponsored by Tefal, so I'm going to be using the Tefal ActiFry Genius XL to cook most of the stuff that I'm cooking. Which means essentially it's going to be a video of me just like putting stuff in an air fryer and taking stuff back out again, because that's how easy it is, mate. You know, who can't do that? I'm also going to put on screen or like give you some instructions on how to cook everything, you know, if you don't have an air fryer or if you have no intention of purchasing one, so you can still like watch on and like learn how to make good stuff with me. All right, that's it. I'll go into some more like features and functions of this like absolute spaceship of a machine soon. Let's do it, let's cook stuff. Right, is that a good intro? So first up, we're going to make some kale chips, roasted sweet potato, chicken thighs and crispy sprouts. Now to the fussies out there, if you don't like kale or Brussels sprouts, a good tip is to make them crispy, because you know that shit hit different. So we're going to start by prepping the chicken with just a few sprays of 1-cal olive oil spray. You definitely don't need this for skin on chicken because the fat in the skin will make it crispy anyway, but it will help to stick the seasoning to it so it doesn't just like blow around inside the ActiFry. Now if you're a proper bro and you don't eat anything other than chicken breast, then you can obviously use chicken breast, but then I mean you'd be making something different, wouldn't you? And in that case I would definitely recommend using a light covering of oil. I'm using a pre-blended barbecue seasoning because, you know, the whole premise of the video is that we're being lazy today. And then I'm just going to throw them in the air fryer for 25 minutes on 200 degrees. If you're using smaller thighs or they are skinless and boneless, then you can reduce that by about 5 minutes. And if you're cooking in the oven, then I'd give them 30 to 35 minutes. So as mentioned, the machine that I'm using is Tefal's ActiFry Genius XL. It's a genius, so you know, you don't have to be. That's not their official tagline, but I feel like it should be. So before this, I didn't even know what an air fryer was, but the name is pretty self-explanatory now that I come to think of it. It basically uses hot air to fry stuff instead of oil, so people typically use them to make like chips and stuff like that you would normally deep fry, because you can now do it obviously using only a minuscule amount of oil in comparison to what you would have had to use otherwise. However, as I'm going to show you, you can obviously do a lot more than just chips, you know, otherwise it would be called the Tefal Chip Maker XL, wouldn't it? It actually comes with a free little booklet that's got loads of recipes in it, and there's also an app that's got loads of free recipes in too. Like, probably better than my recipes, to be honest. I don't know if I'm even making, they're not really recipes, are they? I'm just making chicken and veg. Anyway, for all like the most common things that you cook in it, there's 9 presets, so you can push the button and you don't have to worry about like setting the time and temperature yourself. It's foolproof, mate. Anyway, there's going to be a link and a 40% discount code in the description of the video if you want to pick one up. Right, whilst they're cooking, I'm going to prep the rest. Firstly, the sprouts, a bit of oil, then some chili flakes, salt and pepper. I would recommend using a little bit of oil just to help crisp these up. And if I'm going to be like a responsible adult, I should tell you to use one with a high smoke point, at least if you're cooking at high temperatures anyway. So like avocado, peanut or sesame oil ideally. Anyway, after giving those a good coating, I'm going to chop the ends off these sweet potatoes because they're just worryingly sharp, mate. You could have someone's eye out. Then I'm going to prick them with a fork and leave them as they are. I know everyone just gets an air fryer and makes chips immediately, but these are basically like huge chips, except way better because you're going to get all that like sweet, sticky goodness oozing out the skin. That was descriptive. Anyway, I'm going to give those thighs a turn about halfway through, and then it's a similar story with the kale, just a few sprays of oil, and I'm just using some salt. So now we can remove the thighs from the ActiFry, give the bowl a little clean, and then I'm going to put this paddle thing back in because that'll mix the sprouts around slowly whilst they cook, which is, you know, it's ideal, mate, because it means you don't have to. I started with 15 minutes on 190, but it wasn't long enough because I've actually got no idea what I'm doing. I'm basically just winging the whole video and life, really. So anyway, I'd give them 20 minutes on 180, and I would add probably another 5 minutes to that if you're cooking them in a preheated fan oven. These turned out as what can only be described as proper good. So yeah, I personally don't enjoy a boiled or steamed sprout, but these little crispy guys are on levels, whatever that means. I just see people saying stuff like that on Instagram, so let me know if that's the right context for that phrase. Once they're done, you can take them out and put the kale in. I give mine 15 minutes on 190. I didn't keep that paddle in there because these go so crispy that I think that would just like break them all up and you'd end up with kale dust, which sounds fun but impractical. I did get in there with some tongs about halfway through and just give some of the bits on the bottom a bit of air. Finally, sweet potatoes went in for 180 on 40 minutes. No, for 40 minutes on 180. Obviously, they might take a bit longer depending on the size of them. Now, obviously, I'm doing these all one ingredient at a time, partly for demonstration purposes, but as long as you can fit it in there and you keep an eye on what is cooked when and what needs pulling out, then you can cook things together to speed up the whole process if you like. So we're going to chuck all that off to one side and start on the next meal before we plate up. I'm going to make some tandoori prawns with rice and spiced broccoli, and because we're being lazy, I'm using a rice cooker because, in the words of Uncle Roger, it's not World War II, use technology. If you haven't got a rice cooker, obviously just use a pan, or, if you're made of money, you can buy packet rice. I'm going to prep the prawns first with a wholly unnecessary spray of oil and then a generous amount of this tandoori spice blend. I did devein about 3 of these prawns and I decided I'd rather just eat it than spend my life doing that. Chuck them in the Actifry and they're really going to take like no time at all. I mean, obviously not no time, don't eat raw prawns. I put them in for 10 minutes on 200. They were cooked, now I've eaten them all and I'm still alive. So again, just depending on the size of the prawns, you might have to adjust. You could do these in the oven, but probably wouldn't recommend it. That'd be kind of weird. So if you don't have an air fryer, then I would just fry them in a pan. Next up, I am chopping the broccoli into small, evenly sized chunks, so it cooks evenly. A few sprays of oil and then some cumin and smoked paprika. Trying to pronounce herbs and spices is literally the bane of my life. Like, where does the emphasis go, man? Is it cumin? Is it cumin? Is it paprika? Is it paprika? Who even knows what's life? What I'm even doing here? Anyway, back to the video. These voiceovers get weird, man. I'm gonna roll with it. So you know how this works by now. Like, you take stuff out, you put stuff in, right? Take the prawns out, put the broccoli in, and like we're about done. Obviously, don't forget the rice as well, and I'm also going to chop up some coriander too, just to like garnish and look like I actually have a clue. Now we've got quite the spread, as you can see. I just want to put emphasis on how good these baked sweet potatoes are. The skin is like sweet and soft and the inside is all like mushy, so it's basically like baby food for adults. Like, I just pick them up and bite into them like a big massive chip, and it might be the happiest I've ever been. Anyway, I was just going to portion this out in the meals that I initially intended, but then I decided to be an absolute wildcat and just like mix and match a bit because, why not? Obviously, you can do whatever you want as a general rule in life. This will all be alright in the fridge. Probably wouldn't freeze some of this stuff or it'll go dead weird, hence why I only really made enough for a few days. I didn't track the macros and calories for all this because, A, I don't care, and B, it would only be relevant if you used the exact weights that I used anyway, so, who's going to get sweet potatoes the exact weight of mine? So, just plug the stuff into MyFitnessPal if you want to track it all. A lot of it's just greens anyway, plus some 1 calorie spray, so I imagine that it is pretty low fat, although you could go even lower if you wanted to just use chicken breast instead of chicken thighs, but you would then obviously be sacrificing some flavour, of course. As mentioned earlier, you can make all this in the oven if you want to, but I did find it pretty convenient using the Actifry, and I definitely will be making much more use of it in the future. So thanks again to Tefal for sponsoring the video. Thanks to you for watching. As ever, like if you make anything in the video, tag me in your Instagram stories, because I enjoy looking at your attempts. Like, some of them are dead good, some of them are truly pathetic, but you know, I enjoy both equally. Alright, see you later, see you soon, sayonara, ciao ciao.
They see me rolling, they hating. Joey Lenny is my hero.